dealings with his colleague and the role which the Soviet Union played and China may now play, a hegemonic role amongst countries who felt they had nowhere else to go. I'd just like to ask members of the panel, how do we stop a silk curtain falling where the Iron Curtain fell?
Thank you very much. Another striking phrase that perhaps we should record. Maybrit Stumbach from Germany.
Thank you very much. As a German, I want to congratulate you for the sizable and substantial delegation, which truly underlines that there's a certain in Germany. And you mentioned that we have been too self-centered for too long with economic domination prevailing. Michael Yahuda called this the tyranny of distance and the primacy of trade. And it's good to hear that this is over. I wanted to ask, as you said, it is important to signal that we support the rule-based order and the international law. And you said it's two theaters have become one. What happens in Ukraine, what happens here, has signals worldwide. How do you see the Indo-Pacific deployment in 2024? Germany sent the frigate Bayern here. We had Rapid Pacific. But we have more signals to send. We heard the last days about other European countries sending for German-European trade that is so supportive for our resilience of supply chain through the Taiwan Strait this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And from Vietnam, Vitra.
Thank you, Dr. Chipman. So my question is for Mr. Kallas. Estonia is known for having a strong cyber capabilities. And it has played an important role in helping Ukraine to strengthen their cybersecurity. So I would like to know whether Estonia will increase cyber cooperation with South Asian countries, and if yes, how? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ben Schreier from Germany and also the Delegated Press.
Thank you, John. My question is for Minister Pistorius. Thank you for your excellent remarks. In his remarks yesterday, High Representative Borrell rightly pointed out that countries in this region are still skeptical about the EU's security and defense role. He also argued that the EU is not a military union and that military needs are not at the forefront of its strength as a global actor. This might imply that the Indo-Pacific really shouldn't expect a major strategic role for the EU in this part of the world. And so my question first is, do you agree? And secondly, if so, does that mean that individual European powers, including Germany, have to pursue a more national approach to defense engagement in this region in order to become more credible and to pursue their interests? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from China, Zhao Zhao.
Thank you, John. My question is also going to Estonian Prime Minister. You mentioned that NATO is a defensive organization. Now, I have a little bit different opinion. We know NATO is a security alliance, that is a military alliance. The existence of a military alliance needs enemies, needs adversaries. So when it provides security guarantees to its members, but also at the same time, it puts its fingers to other countries. View other countries as threat, as enemies. So as a result, if we take a bigger picture, so what it has brought to either in Europe or in Asia Pacific is not peace and stability, but division and confrontation. So that is what it has happened in Europe and what it is happening in Asia Pacific. Why? After the end of the Cold War for more than 30 years, why the security situation either in Europe and in Asia Pacific deteriorated? So I think that is the reason for NATO or for US military alliance in this region. So I'd like to have your opinion or your comment on my argument. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Justin Bagisal.
Thank you, John. Following up from the question of the delegate from China, I'd like to ask a question from the Prime Minister of Estonia. What do you think are the basic requirements for small countries to feel secure despite having a big neighbor? As we all know, a threat is not just about the intention of your neighbor, but also its capabilities and opportunities. So we would be remiss not to plan for all contingencies when we are beside such neighbors. What has Russia done wrong in the recent decades for its neighbors to remain fearful of it? And constructively, what might China learn from that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take a couple of more. Shangri-La from Cambodia.
Thank you. My question go to Minister Pistorius. With regard to the German stand on Taiwan, in the event of the cross-strait conflict, what is the German position on the conflict, and how would German would see the German and European role in the conflict as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, we'll take even another couple more, and then each of the panelists will have 5 minutes to take it. They've each taken exceptionally good notes here, so I think we'll be well served. Alistair Gale from the UK.
Thank you very much. I have a question for Dr. Ramos Horta. You mentioned the need for a US-China partnership for peace. We're here at a meeting of defense ministers, but there's been no conversation between the US and Chinese ministers. There's also been a near collision between US and Chinese warships. How concerned are you that the US-China relationship is heading in the wrong direction, and what could that mean for your country?
Bastian Diegel from Germany.
John, thank you very much. I have two questions, if I may. One for Prime Minister Kallas. Yesterday, the Swedish Defense Minister Jonsson said NATO supports its partners but defends its allies. And I was wondering whether, with a view to the Vilnius summit, you can give us your thoughts on what you would like, what kind of message you would like to see vis-a-vis Ukraine and NATO membership. And one question for Defense Minister Pistorius. So you spoke about changes you expect to see around Germany's arms export policy, and I think I venture, I guess, that piqued the interest of several nations here in the region, but possibly also some of the companies represented here in the room. So I was wondering whether you could add a little bit more detail on what those changes might look like, or what kind of changes you're hoping for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take one more question in a second from Japan. I just want to give a tactical warning to our panelists to say that I will ask them to reply in the reverse order in which they initially spoke. So, Boris Pistorius, Kallas, and President Timor-Leste in that order. And with Japan, Mihoke Matsuhura. Matsubara.
Thank you, Dr. Chipman. So I have a question to Prime Minister Kallas, if I may. So the war in Ukraine showcased how crucial critical infrastructure services are in both peacetime and wartime. And I'm wondering if I'd be really grateful if you can share lessons that your country has learned from this war, and how your government and critical infrastructure companies are now working differently together compared to before the wars to defend those critical infrastructure companies from hybrid threats, including cyber threats.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm very glad I got one more question in, another subject to address. 5 minutes each. We want to end around 10:56. Boris Pistorius.
Well, I tried to make it quite short. There was a lot of questions, and I would like to combine the answer to the question regarding arms control and the question of export control. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that I'm not able to tell you more details, because we are just in discussions in Germany. We are really in discussions because we experienced a shift of public opinion and principles of our security policy during the last decades. If somebody had told me 2 years ago that Germany would deliver heavy weapons, ammunition, and so on into a region, in a war region, I wouldn't have believed that, and I would have said it is impossible. That we do it is a real paradigm shift, and therefore we have to now to try to shape our new security policy also regarding the export control of arms. This is our really challenge now. We have to fix it in our coalition and the government. We have to fix it with the parliament and, of course, with the public opinion. So therefore, arms control and arms export control, we have to discuss together. Regarding the role of European Union in military guards, well, the European Union is, of course, everybody knows, not a military alliance, and is not a competitor to NATO, of course. Most of us are NATO members, so this is not our role, and I rather prefer to keep it like that. We should not try to make European Union a military alliance. We don't need another military alliance. What we need is a close cooperation with NATO, and we need a close cooperation between the members of the European Union and members of NATO, because we are depending on sticking very close together, especially regarding international conflicts and international challenges. The last point is regarding and connected to that. Germany will be present in the future, not only in 24, as we were in 21. We will be present in 24 and the following years too, because we want to show our interest and our concern about what is going on in this region, and we want to show our solidarity and our being guilty, some kind of not having it in focus during the last decade. So we will be present in future too.
Thank you very much. So perhaps they say in the US Congress you lend 2 minutes of your time to the Prime Minister of Estonia. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just worried that I'm not sure I can make it in 5 minutes. I have many questions here, but I try my best. Try to combine those answers. NATO. NATO is a defense alliance. Of course, it's a military alliance. And when you ask that the military alliance need to have an enemy, no, it's defense alliance that is a group of countries coming together and really agreeing how we can defend ourselves better. And because we have existential threat, that is Russia. NATO has also said that out. But just to play out this kind of idea that NATO is a threat to somebody, then NATO is an alliance of now 31 countries. 31 countries with very different sizes. So if to say that NATO is threatening somebody's sovereignty or territorial integrity, how does that really play out? Because then NATO invades a country and then we share it amongst ourselves with 31 countries, and so you get a bigger piece, we get a smaller piece. I mean, that is ridiculous. This is not how it works. And as I say, I mean, as soon as we got out and the occupation stopped, as the Soviet Union collapsed, our first idea was that we are never alone again, because it's a question of our independence, it's a question of our freedom, it's a question of our right to exist as a country. Therefore, we applied to NATO. NATO did not want us at all, so we had to work very, very hard to get there. And if we wouldn't be in NATO, we would be living through some really, really dark times right now. But we are, and that's why we are free and independent. And also a question of the discussion is around of spheres of influence, which is the topic that Russia wants to really have. That, okay, let's divide the world so that these are your spheres of influence and these are mine, like they did, Germany and Russia in 1939, which meant great atrocities for my country, for example, because the world was divided. So the point is, the only security guarantees that there are for small countries is the end of gray zones, really. That we have big friends, and when we have big friends, then the big bully doesn't really bully you, because this is dangerous also to them. And what are the basic requirements for a lasting peace? and why Russia keeps on attacking its neighbors is we have to do everything to show that aggression as a policy tool cannot pay off. Because if it does, you know, you invade a country, you take part of it, you take the territories, and then somebody says that, okay, let's stop here, let's draw the line, let's have a peace treaty, these territories are for you, these territories are for you, then aggression actually pays off. It means that if you invade a country, you walk away with more than you had before. And we have to give a clear message that this can't be the case, because then every country in the world and the international law is actually under attack. And what it requires is accountability. Why Russia does that compared to other countries that are no longer colonizing different countries is because they have never been held accountable for what they have done. I mean, Germany has paid has been accountable for the Nazi crimes and really has the collective understanding of what was happening. It has never been the case for Russia. Russians don't know the crimes that they committed in Estonia or elsewhere, and so there has never been accountability like it was for a Nuremberg tribunal. Regarding Vilnius, of course, we support Ukraine's path to NATO's membership. Everybody understands it can't happen while the war is going on, but we need clear wording that is more than Bucharest. Then critical infrastructure and cybersecurity. In 2007, we were attacked by Russia by cyber attacks, and what we learned from there is to build the resilience and really invest in cybersecurity. And that is also a lesson for Ukraine, actually, because why they are able to deliver services to their country, to their people, is that they have built and invested a lot in cybersecurity over these years, and also security of the critical infrastructure that is actually much more difficult to do. But cybersecurity is of utmost importance. We are very focused on the conventional war that is going on, but even if that ends, the cyber war will continue. And what is the different understanding that we have to keep in mind all the time is that, you know, hospitals, for example, a few years ago, they only had to worry about some drug addict coming and stealing the morphine. That was their security risk. Now they are part of the bigger security picture, and by a cyber attack you can actually have civilian casualties because the hospitals will go out function. So this is why we have to do everything we can. And also there was a question how we can help other countries. As Estonia, we have and we are doing this all the time. Although being a small country, we have the cyber exercises, and it's also very important that we build the connections with the countries that we trust, the trusted connectivity, but also that we share information about the cyber attacks, because the others can't prepare if they don't know what is your experience. So I really call on like-minded partners to share information, because the bad guys share information and the good guys should as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. There's a certain charisma and clarity. Thank you for providing that. President of Timor-Leste.
I would like to clarify one or two points in my comments. One in regard to ODA. In fairness, the European Union as such, following the subprime crisis in 2008-2009, did not reduce aid to developing countries. I refer to the bilateral donors, did dramatically, and they have not recovered. And the UK, under David Cameron, was the only country, a G7 country, that in the midst of the crisis actually increased ODA to 0.7%. Can we imagine if every G7 country, plus other major powers like China, India, also increased to 0.7%. This is an appeal that we made for the past 30, 40 years for OECD countries to contribute 0.7% of their GDP to ODA. But since then, some countries, I don't mention names, literally no longer have an ODA. Partly the money relocated to conflicts, managing conflicts in Africa, Central Africa, in Mali. Some of the money redirected within their own country from aid money to resettling, supporting North African refugees going to Europe. So, and in regard to Ukraine, I have to say, Timor-Leste is one of the first countries that actually condemned, and we did not only condemn my country, in spite of being poor, we contributed almost immediately with $2 million through the UN system for Ukrainian refugees. Because many countries in plenary conferences, they all announced great contributions. But in the end, when the Secretary General started counting how much money actually went to UNHCR, 30% of what was pledged or 30% of what was needed. So it is, you know, I'm not overly romantic about this is a whole humanity, we are all the same, you know, well, but some are cousins and some are poor cousins. And there are quicker response to your first cousins than cousins in South Asia or in Africa and so on. So, and that is the disparity we see in the reaction to support Ukraine and to other fatalities. In relation to our role in ASEAN, first and foremost, it's not only now that ASEAN supported us. Way back in the beginning of the crisis, Timor-Leste, 1999, 2000, many ASEAN countries contributed with peacemaking, police contributing Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia had, although it had, at the time it was not in condition to have arms, but it also had civilian personnel going there. And
他的条件不允许他去帮助的更多，但是他们也
In November last year, the summit in Phnom Penh agreed in principle that Timor-Leste should be the 11th member. And then in the Labuan summit, a roadmap was adopted, a very strict roadmap, which we are working on with support from Singapore and other ASEAN countries, but also with pledges of support from Australia, New Zealand, the European Union, the United States, Japan, South Korea, China, Portugal, for improving the pool of Timorese human resources to meet the challenges in ASEAN membership, which is not only like meaning the challenges and actually respond to our own needs. Even if we were not going to join ASEAN, we still need those requirements for our own development. And Timor-Leste is, we are poor by most definitions, but we have made tremendous progress in the last 20 years. In 2002, we had only 19 medical doctors. Now we have 1,200 medical doctors. Well, in 2002, we had one university. Today we have 16 universities and Institute of Higher Learning. We have hundreds of Timorese studying around the region, in Europe, all the way to Brazil. And our best contribution to ASEAN is we should not be a burden and a headache for ASEAN. So we keep the peace in our own country. We develop as much as we can. And I have to say, I don't think we might be poor, but we are an investor in international finance. We have a sovereign fund, which we created in 2004-05. Initially, all our money invested in US Treasury bonds. In 2009, we changed the law to diversify. The diversification of our funds, 40% was diversified, $7 billion, I don't mention the figure. have a return, given us return the last 10 years of 8% a year. 8% in our more than 1,000 portfolios in equities. So we are investing in the US. We are an investor in Euro bonds. We are an investor in Australia. But now we are going to shift more to invest in Asian markets. Because US Treasury bonds pay us next to nothing. And we are not following the trend of moving away from the US dollar. Our currency is the US dollar. It has served us well. We will continue with that. But we will diversify from an instrument that pays us nothing. So we will move more. So that's our contribution. So the best contribution, we don't want to be another catastrophe like Myanmar. And ASEAN has this huge challenge, and we will support ASEAN leaders and friends to the extent possible to resolve these challenges in our region. And so I think on the question from the UK on the South China Sea. In the beginning of independence for several years, we had a dispute with Australia over our maritime boundary. Australia preferred an ancient theory of continental shelf, which would have meant all the way Australian boundary, maritime boundary would extend all the way to our coastal areas. But wisdom prevailed between the two sides, Timor-Leste and Australia, mediated by the United Nations under UNCLOS. And in 2018, we agreed on a permanent maritime boundary midway between Timor-Leste and Australia, based on international law. If it were not for international law, if we did not follow UNCLOS, if we do not follow internationally established rules, well, Timor-Leste would be a victim. We still would not have a permanent maritime boundary.
Thank you very much. By the way, on that last point, I think the last international treaty of significance between a European country and Russia was when Norway and Russia signed the maritime boundary, also within the midpoint of a previously contested area. And the person who negotiated that is the Norwegian ambassador to London, was also the Norwegian ambassador to the United States. And as a sign of how the center of geopolitical gravity is moving to the east and to the north, he thinks the next most prestigious post for him to have is as the Norwegian ambassador to Finland, a position he's taking up in August. An interesting factoid. On Friday, I said that the Shangri-La Dialogue, being an informal intergovernmental event organized by the independent IISS, is able to introduce fresh, vital, and new perspectives into the debate from a growing diversity of countries. We have had this on this panel. I have learned a great deal. You will have learned a great deal. Please thank our panelists for adding to our knowledge.
me and you to take care of Romania. So I have two of them.
Nice to meet you.
Quase presidente todo, mas foi a trocar impressões e hoje, claro, grande visibilidade para Timor, com muitas centenas de pessoas influentes. Marquei a nossa posição em relação à questão da Ucrânia, ajuda externa, dívida externa, como sendo também um porta-voz dos países endividados, embora Timor não é endividado, mas achei que devia ser partilhar as preocupações dos países endividados, afetados pela Covid, pela guerra da Ucrânia, e sem que os países credores tenham feito um mais pequeno gesto de dívidas.
O Sr. Presidente foi questionado sobre que papel é que Timor pode ter na ASEAN. Tem tido o próprio Ramos Horta tal mediador ao longo da sua carreira. Pensa que Timor pode ter esse papel mais mediador para a região?
Talvez, mas temos que primeiro consolidar o nosso próprio país, responder ao roadmap, a sua implementação, porque a implementação do roadmap em si reforça as instituições timorenses, não é só por causa da ASEAN. Portanto, se houver necessidade, o mais importante é juntar a nossa voz à voz da ASEAN para questões de paz e segurança na Ásia-Pacífico ou no Indo-Pacífico, mas ajudar, sobretudo, a que haja consenso na ASEAN, para que as rivalidades do South China Sea não venham a afetar a unidade da ASEAN, afetar o consenso da ASEAN.
Sai com a ideia reforçada de que esta viagem à Coreia e a Singapura ajuda a colocar Timor no mapa?
Sem dúvida.
Pode abrir novas portas?
Sem dúvida alguma. Há de haver mais investimentos em profundidade da Coreia do Sul, sobretudo Singapura.
Outra questão de segurança no defesa e diálogo
Bom, ao colher, né, ele primeiro, quando a tinha adesão à ASEAN, esforço a cumprir roadmap, né, e também cumprimento do roadmap, né, lá onde também a ASEAN ajuda e reforça e tem instituições de Estado. E preocupação quando a situação via sul, Mar do Sul da China, né? E também problemas que acontecem e todos sofrem. E daquele a responsabilidade também, a responsabilidade da guerra da Ucrânia, a responsabilidade do conflito e a South China Sea, e Timor-Leste, nessa região que se sofre. Da paz, segurança e a região.
Shangri-La.